Research. Okay, we are. Stream is live.
Great. Very great. Cool. Man, the list of 90s actors, it's not bad. Oh, Barry Pepper.
Oh, Barry Pepper, really? Oh,
You made the list, Barry.
Barry made the list of best '90s actors.
Yeah.
Barry Pepper from fucking Battlefield Earth, man. Would he have been a good Superman?
You know what? I think he might have been.
You think he might have been a good Superman?
It was like on the younger side.
Younger B Peps?
Well, he would have been the right age. They just had to have made Superman a little younger in his career. I don't think he was quite at the killing age, you know?
Gotcha. Hold that thought.
Oh, fuck. Did you do it?
Oh, I think I'm done. Oh, fucking hell. I mentioned I hate sneezing.
It's not the funnest. I don't know where you go with that.
Nothing, nowhere. I just hate sneezing. So out of everybody who was like a popular actor in the 90s,
right.
Like who would you want to see play Superman?
So I pulled up a list on IMDb of the best actors of the 90s, and you know, the list is good. They don't limit it to like leading men, which is good.
I like that.
But it doesn't exactly help for picking a good Superman. I have seen one actor that I'm like, you know what, I actually kind of would like to see him give it a shot, aside from Barry Pepper, who I want to see play Superman at this time period, but not in the Death of Superman storyline. I would like a little older of an actor.
Okay.
For that storyline. Val Kilmer.
90s Val Kilmer.
Yeah.
Huh. You know, I can see it. The cut of his jaw, his acting ability at the time. He was really busy with the Island of Dr. Moreau, though.
I'm sure we could pull him away from that for a minute. Oh, man, when was the Island of Dr. Moreau? I feel like it was later 90s. I think we might have been able to get him.
Possibly. But he was Batmaning, though.
But that was like 90. Oh, yeah.
It was 95.
I don't know why I was thinking this movie was in production earlier than that.
Well, I mean, that would have wrapped production before Superman Lives, but Island of Dr. Moreau, I think, would have gotten directly in the way of it, because he passed up on Batman and Robin because of it.
You're right. Which was 98, I think.
97.
97.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Barry wins.
Barry Pepper, you're the new Superman.
Yeah, I think it's no secret that the acting style of the 90s is not my favorite.
Sure. Yeah, you have often referred to that as kind of like a blind spot in your film knowledge.
Yeah.
Which we've been regrettably fixing.
Yeah. But it does kind of leave me in a tough spot for picking actors whose performance I enjoy in that time period.
Fair.
But no, you're like, if there was an actor that would not have time to do it, it would be Val Kilmer.
That's very true. The man was very busy.
So I guess we're gonna go with Kyle MacLachlan all today.
Oh my god, could you fucking imagine a Kyle MacLachlan Superman? Correction, could you imagine a Kyle MacLachlan Superman that's not directed by David Lynch?
I'm trying to... no, that was David Lynch.
Man, I don't even know what you were going to say, and you immediately derailed yourself.
It's like, what's he like doing Kyle MacLachlan? It's like, I've seen Kyle MacLachlan and only David Lynch stuff, except for The Doors.
I was going to say except for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but...
Oh, yeah, he wasn't Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yep.
He was good.
I enjoyed him.
And he's inevitably, when we do Showgirls, he'll be in that as well.
Yes. Fuck! We have to lose all of that.
Okay.
I was on the wrong input.
Oh, I'm glad you caught it then.
Yes. Okay, I'm recording again. I'm on the proper input. I was wondering why my headphones sounded weird. Okay, that explains
I
it.
think I typed in the wrong thing, or at least not a specific enough thing. I just typed in 90s men.
Jack, that's a very particular search, and it's not that kind of show. But sometimes that kind of show. What the 90s men do, though?
Huh. You know what? This name just popped up,
Oh?
and I'm not hating it. I don't know how old he would have been at the time, but
This is not for a sex thing, just to be clear.
Mark Paul Gosselaar
Mark Paul Gosselaar.
from Saved by the Bell fame.
Who's he playing Saved by the Bell?
Zach Morris.
Oh, okay. I don't know my my Saved by the Bell
Morris,
cast.
Obviously.
So he's trash.
Yeah, he's not a good human being.
No.
But like, and I'm looking at like an older Mark Paul.
So you're telling me that Zach Morris
Yeah,
could have been a good Superman.
I have too much shit hooked up to my laptop to turn my laptop around.
Yeah.
but I'm looking at his face, and it's,
Send me a picture of his face real quick.
I will do that. Right here. Keeping in mind, I don't know how old he actually would have been in the 90s. Fuck you. Just give me that fucking picture, you piece of shit. I would recommend just typing his name into Google. That would be the quicker.
I'm pulling up his IMDb now. Oh, that's how he aged.
Yeah, he aged really well.
Wow. Holy shit.
So like, I don't know how well he would have fit the role in 1997.
He's in Barry. Oh my god.
I would not, I would give him a shot. I really haven't seen him in anything after Saved by the Bell, but
you know what? I'll take it. He's not Barry Pepper.
he's not Barry Pepper. And while my gut told me Val Kilmer deserves a shot, that was a really impossible time for him to do it.
Absolutely would have been. Yeah, as we were mentioning before we had to re-record this introduction, the Island of Dr. Moreau would have absolutely prevented him from being in Superman Lives. Mark Paul Gosselaar, or however you pronounce that last name. What a fucking last name. Gosselaar.
The other way we can do this is I want you to pick a number between 1 and 100, and I will tell you the actor on the IMDb's best actors of the 90s list, and that would be who Superman is, which is probably just about as much thought as John Peters went into his casting.
69.
Should have
seen it coming. Alternately 37.
Well, our next Superman is Tony Shalhoub.
Oh, that rules.
Of Monk fame.
Yep.
And it's an interesting choice, but we let the numbers /Joe/perversion decide, and we landed on Tony Shalhoub.
Beautiful.
I feel good about it.
What about 37? What about that alternate?
Oh, 37. In case Tony's too busy.
Shaloobing around.
You said 37?
37.
All right.
Figure we just wrapped up all the Kevin Smith stuff and may as well get that number out of the way.
Right. Little on the older side.
Oh.
Christopher Plummer.
Oh man.
Maybe if you did he's pretty fucking old. I was like, maybe if you did the Kingdom Come era Superman, but even then, he's old as hell.
Yeah, it might not work. Tony Shalhoub it is.
Tony Shalhoub. Hey, I'm happy.
Welcome back to DeRazzled, everybody. Thank you for joining us here in the second unit. where we are going to continue our dive into development hell, specifically into the production of Superman Lives. This is part 2 of that ridiculous journey. I'm your host, Joe Nealis, and with me, as always, is also host Jack Culbertson, who's the happiest I've seen him in quite some time. Oh God! If you're just joining us for the first time in this series, why? Why did you do that? This is clearly marked part 2. But we are talking about the ill-fated, Tim Burton directed, at one point Kevin Smith scribed, and thoroughly John Peters produced Superman Lives, which was supposed to come out in 1998. It was in pre-production through 96 and 97. You've disappeared from the...
Some of us are dumb. Let me back in. Thanks.
There you go.
I was getting rid of Tony Shalhoub and I got too excited.
Oh God, that's my excuse for the next time somebody catches me masturbating.
Right. Tony Shalhoub.
I was getting rid of Tony Shalhoub and I got too excited. Oh. Normally we take award-winning worst films and fix them, but today we are continuing our journey into something so extremely painful and so extremely in need of thorough research that this is the most work I put into something since grad school. Jack, are you ready to continue? But we're just getting to Tim.
If it's not apparent, we recorded part 1 and then immediately went to part 2.
Immediately went to part 2.
Here we are. Tim Burton. I have watched most of his movies. In fact, I think on my movie app, Movie Fads,
yes,
he is the director I've watched the most of his films.
Oh. I would ask you what your favorite of his films are, but the answer is very obvious that it would be Batman Returns.
When I talk about Tim Burton, I normally remove that one from the list.
Oh, it's its own class.
It's its own class.
Okay, fair. What's your favorite non-Batman Returns Tim Burton film?
Probably the one that still makes me it still hits is Edward Scissorhands.
I have not watched that since I was young. I need to go.
Up. I watched it a couple of years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
As much as I don't want to see Johnny Depp right now,
both Johnny Depp and Tim Burton are kind of problematic. But Winona Ryder's in it.
What was that?
Winona Ryder's in it.
Winona Ryder is in it. I do
Winona
love her.
Ryder's mom, I forget the name of the actress, but she still when you watch it again as an adult, you're like, oh, the mom steals the movie.
Huh.
Of course, Edward Scissorhands is catches your eye, but as far as performances go, you're like, oh, this whole movie would have fallen apart if she wasn't cast perfectly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm partial to Big Fish.
I want to watch Big Fish again now that I'm a little older. I think because that was coming off of his most Tim Burton-iest Tim Burton.
Yeah, that's true.
That was kind of like a transitional period for his films. I didn't give it a fair shot.
It's still pretty Tim Burton.
It's
bright. It's more brightly colored.
It is brightly colored,
and not in the sickening suburban pastel way, but in the
right.
natural world way.
Yeah. It's also I think he directed it after his dad passed away.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense.
Which, if I recall, makes sense when watching the movie. Where it's I don't have those feelings, so I'm just
it also makes sense.
Right?
see our episode on Mommy Dearest.
Right. But I do like the actors involved.
It's a very good cast.
And I was like, do I bring this up on the podcast? I think I will. If for no other reason, then it pads the time between me having to talk about Superman and now. So it's been mentioned that Tim Burton has said some less than racially sensitive things.
Yeah.
I'm going to misquote it because I wanted to look it up, didn't have time. But it confused me when you mentioned his first choice for Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah. He wanted Sammy Davis Jr. originally.
Yeah, because I think, and again, please look this up for yourself. He said something along the lines of, in his like idealized world, there isn't like people of color. And
I do remember something along those lines. I like, part of me wants to believe that like what he meant to say is that he wanted to see a world where like racial difference isn't like the virulent thing that it is.
right,
But I'm also like not remembering the exact quote,
yeah,
and also like fingers crossed, very wishful thinking. Like, don't be a jag, don't be a jag, don't be a
Right.
jag.
I was hoping he either meant it like that, or that he wasn't using idealized world in a positive sense, but more in the Edward Scissorhands sense.
Oh, like in the dystopian sense.
Yeah.
Okay. But
which, like, yeah, it's a very white dystopian.
It's a very white dystopian thing.
And just watching his early work, you're like, yeah, that's the dystopia that you grew up in, and I can see why you would just like it.
Yep.
But also, I got my eyes on you, Tim. So when
Burton.
Sammy Davis Jr. was his choice for Beetlejuice, was like, well, that goes against what those feels are. But
potentially.
Also, interesting choice.
Yeah.
Glad we went with Michael Keaton.
Same.
But also wouldn't have minded seeing some screen tests of Sammy Davis Jr. Beetlejuice.
I would be interested to see that. If there is a screen test out there for that, I would love.
Just the makeup, really. I'd love to see the makeup test.
Yeah. It'd be a very different character. You all right there?
I got a sticky butt. It's very hot in this room.
It is. Jesus Christ. Well, let's go ahead and dive back into a time before Tim Burton said all that stupid shit that he shouldn't have said.
I do like that.
Yeah. So Tim Burton wanted to craft a story about what it's like to be the ultimate outsider. He wanted to do something unlike any other Superman film to date.
Tim Burton, a story about an outsider?
Now, I know it's wildly out of character. It's bizarre, considering how in character everyone has been and actually continues to be in this fucking story. So, as we mentioned, he gets rid of Kevin Smith. He does not want to work with his script. So instead he brings in, as the now fourth writer on this film, Wesley Strick, whom, while he's uncredited, was the script doctor on Batman Returns. He was also one of Burton's defense mechanisms on Batman Returns to prevent John Peters-esque meddling, because he kept Strick with him like all the time on set. Burton was not the only one who was not happy with Smith's script, as John Peters will not hesitate to tell you. He found the second draft in particular of Smith's script unfunny, unimaginative, and amateurish, which clashes with Smith's assertion that studio was happy with his work. Strick says that Smith's script did not click for him, but that a lot of that was because he is not a Superman fanboy and had not read Death of Superman at all. Like, he is completely unfamiliar with the material. He claims that the Eradicator and Elron had entirely too much dialogue and detracted from their counterparts. Noted that the blotting out of the sun bit had just recently happened on The Simpsons.
Fuck, The Simpsons did it.
The Simpsons did it. Of course they fucking did. There was entirely too much techno jargon in it, a bunch of stuff that he just didn't grasp, which, considering some of the techno jargon was anti-technology, I don't know about that claim, Wesley.
Yeah.
Anyway, he wanted to talk about this script with Burton, but Burton just outright refused. Like, he shut that down immediately, and Strick just never brought it back up. Smith, for what he had to say on the matter, was this: the studio was happy with what I was doing. Then Tim Burton got involved, and when he signed his pay-or-play deal, he turned around and said he wanted to do his version of Superman. So who is Warner Brothers going to back? The guy who made Clerks, or the guy who made them $500 million on Batman?
Right.
Now, it is worth noting, while he did bring in like $500 million on his Batman movies, Burton was not in the biggest of good graces with Warner Brothers at this point, because Mars Attacks had just not quite flopped,
Sure.
but definitely disappointed in terms of his performance.
I was going to ask what.
Undeservedly, I might add, because that movie rules.
I think it's aged well.
I think it has aged well. That's an example of something that has gotten a critical reevaluation over time.
Because I also did not enjoy it the first time I saw it.
I didn't get it the first time I saw it, but I also was just like,
yeah, I didn't understand the franchise.
I was more just like, I like the aliens, and that was.
The alien design is really sweet, but that's from the trading cards.
Oh yeah.
I also like the part where they destroyed Congress.
I mean, that was pretty great, right? Though they've done some okay things as of late. I just threw up in my mouth. I'm sorry. So, as everybody knows, Nick Cage was immediately cast as Superman. Everybody thought this was a weird idea. There was some fan backlash. I should say everybody outside of the production thought this was a weird idea. Okay. And there was immediate backlash akin to people's reaction to Michael Keaton being cast as Batman.
All right. So Burton probably just felt validated by his casting.
Honestly, yeah, it's like, oh, this is happening again. Let's see about this. Cage is notoriously a gargantuan comic book fan.
Yeah.
At this time and moving forward, very much so.
Of his bank account.
To the detriment of his bank account, yes, absolutely. I think he had a copy of Action Comics #1 for a while that he spent an astronomical amount of money on, similar to his Dinosaur Skull collection. The man has exacting tastes. But he continued even after this movie to keep up with the franchise and took notice of a number of things. And when Superman Returns eventually came out, he had this to say. Well, that was a much more nostalgic, traditional approach to that character, and I didn't want to do that. I was going to turn that character upside down alongside Tim Burton.
Okay, yeah.
He was very enthusiastic about the ideas that Burton had and really looked forward to doing something unique with this role.
The more I actually hear Nick Cage talk without, being in the Hollywood machine, the more I like him.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Especially now that he's started coming out and doing those AMA style things. Like his the earnestness and enthusiasm and kindness that he speaks with is just a fucking breath of fresh air. What a guy. Nick Cage, we love you. Let's see. Additional casting that was flying around. Christopher Walken was targeted for Brainiac.
Okay. I mean, Burton had just worked with him in Batman Returns.
Very true. There was a rumor that Jim Carrey was an option for the role as well, but there was much more enthusiasm behind Walken as the casting. And Kevin Spacey was the immediate thought for Lex Luthor as well.
Yeah.
Which, the man is a gigantic, problematic mess. Even to this day, new allegations arise against him every couple of years, it feels like. I think he literally this year, there were 2 or 3 more sexual assault allegations in Europe brought against him. So,
I mean, you could be talented and a piece of shit.
And a piece of shit. And Kevin Spacey is certainly both of those things. It's also worth noting, just as a amusing aside, I guess, that Kevin Spacey loved doing a Christopher Walken impression.
Huh.
In additional casting, it was revealed that Chris Rock had been cast as Jimmy Olsen.
What's interesting is when you were asking me in part 1 about the casting for Jimmy Olsen by Kevin Smith, I thought about Chris Rock.
You thought about Chris Rock, which is funny that you should bring up Kevin Smith again, because this announcement was made while Dogma was in production. So Chris Rock comes on the set and says, "Guess who's gonna play Jimmy Olsen?" And Kevin Smith is like, "Is it you?" And he's like, "Well, why not me?" And he goes, "No, really, that's great. I love that." Yeah.
I think you'd actually do a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun, especially that era of Chris Rock. I think he's. Yeah, absolutely. Other considerations for Jimmy Olsen were Paul Rudd, Matthew Perry, Robert Sean Leonard, Savion Glover, Marlon Wayans, Jack Noseworthy, Balthazar Getty, and a bunch more. There were a lot of people who were up for Jimmy Olsen, and the last remaining major piece of casting, Lois Lane.
Mhm.
There were three actresses that were at the top of the list: Julianne Moore, Courtney Cox, and the studio's favorite, Sandra Bullock.
I think to go with Nick Cage, my gut says Courtney Cox. I think Sandra Bullock would also work, but I think she would pull the camera away from Nick Cage.
Possibly, which is quite the feat when you really think about it.
And given Nick Cage, I'd probably go with Chris Rock or Jimmy Olsen.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
I would want to see that. So Sandra Bullock was hands down Peter's favorite for Lois Lane. It was the studio's favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much Tim Burton's. When asked about that, his response was, "I guess I wasn't there that day."
Yeah, I can't see his style working with her.
Yeah, it would be a weird collaboration. I think it could work, but it would need like a lot of massaging.
She's a talented actress.
Yeah,
sure
absolutely. Other actresses that were considered were Mira Sorvino, Julia Roberts, Elizabeth Shue, Jennifer Aniston, Bridget Fonda, Gwyneth Paltrow, Cameron Diaz, and Annabeth Gish.
Okay.
For the production team, there were a wide variety of artists under the supervision of production designer Rick Heinrich, some of whom had experience with DC Comics, and some of whom were totally outside of the comic book world and were explicitly Tim Burton collaborators from other past movies, mostly from Batman and Edward Scissorhands, and some, in the case of Heinrich, going all the way back to Frankenweenie and Vincent.
Oh, so the whole
way, Cal Arts days, yeah.
Wow.
There was one caveat, though. Heinrich's team were not permitted to work from Kevin Smith's script, even though they had not received a script from Wesley Strick due to holdups with John Peters.
Okay.
So Heinrich had met and worked with Burton, as I mentioned, at Cal Arts through several different things, and came onto this project after having wrapped production on The Big Lebowski.
Cool.
They also brought longtime costume designer Colleen Atwood, who had worked with Burton since Edward Scissorhands. She also did costumes for Ed Wood, 1994's Little Women, Philadelphia, and Cabin Boy. Michael Anthony Jackson quit The Matrix to do this after having worked on Batman Returns and Mars Attacks. Pete Von Schally and Brahm designed a variety of monsters for Brainiac's Menagerie, as did a number of other artists. A wide variety of other people who worked on this: Jim Carson's, Jack Johnson, Jacques Ray, Bill Bowes, all did various sculptures and drawings and concept art, gouache paintings and things.
Are any of those things out there?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. Look up the concept art for this fucking film, because not only is there all the work that all these people did, there's Tim Burton's sketches as well in his like goofy ass style. Yeah. In particular, I'll mention it when it becomes relevant. Okay. There's one that I swear to God I may have hallucinated, but I'm pretty sure it exists. One of the other more notable members of the production team was Sylvain Desprez. He was brought on because he had worked with Mobius, who was known for his work on Jodorowsky's Dune.
He also has a pretty large catalog of comics that he's done in his own right.
Yes, that's also very true, but I really just wanted to say Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah, sure.
But also, Desprez was a fresh European non-comic book influence perspective.
Okay.
So they had all these different angles and all these different influences coming in to try and mesh into Burton's vision for this ultimate outsider film.
Okay.
There was one other name that popped up, Tim Burgard. And I mentioned him specifically because he had the most to say about designing the Thanagarian Snare Beast,
Okay.
which I'll say does not appear in Burton's in Burton's version. Like
He was
that,
able to talk Peters down.
we'll get to it.
Okay.
So the Thanagarian Snare Beast, he says he wanted something menacing for Superman to fight that wasn't just another guy in tights. So he created something that was a Black Widow crossed with a tarantula and also with like a little bit of crab in there, with an H.R. Giger twist. He specifically uses the phrase "opening of the Yanni."
God damn it.
Which is a very vaginal opening on the underside of the snare beast that releases a bunch of tiny snare beasts, a bunch of little spiders.
Everything I didn't want to be,
exactly,
but expected it to be.
Also, we've already mentioned that John Peters did not want Superman to fly in this movie, because it always looks stupid when they do it live. Industrial Light and Magic came in and actually managed to make it look fucking good. There's some test footage in John Schnapp's The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened documentary that pops up that looks fucking cool. Like it's just like a momentary thing of Superman landing, but it is, if they had kept up that quality of all the flights, I think Peters would have shut up.
I mean, you got ILM, you're probably fine.
Yeah, honestly. Okay, so moving into the actual story a little bit, Burton saw Clark Kent as being a more tragic and broken loner figure that's almost more alien than Superman himself. Burton felt that Superman and Clark were very different than Batman and Bruce Wayne, because Superman had to conceal his identity on a global scale, which echoes a little bit of what Lemkin, the first scriptwriter, had talked about a little bit. Of course, he's a literal fucking alien, so it does make some sense. It's a little bit of an easy conclusion to come to. During costume fittings, Burton and Cage joked that they were really creating more of a Superman and Super Freak setup, and Nick Cage in particular became just really fixated on this idea of Clark Kent wearing like graphic tees to work, particularly with Mickey Mouse on them, which actually factors into a little bit of some of his like more intellectual like analysis of the character going in, because he holds Superman up as like one of the major like American cultural icons, and the big three that he names are Superman, Batman, Mickey Mouse. So
I see where he got to that conclusion. I still hate it.
Yeah, fair. I was not a fan either. In terms of locations of where they were going to shoot this, the vast majority of it was going to be on the Warner Brothers lot. I think lot 16, which I'm pretty sure, if I remember what I heard correctly, when you see like the Warner Brothers logo and they show like the shot of the lot in sepia tones and whatnot, it's like the big building right there in the middle. That's like what they're showing there. Aside from that, though, because obviously there's going to be a bunch of soundstage work they're going to do with this. Aside from that, what city do you think he was going to try to film this in?
Budapest.
No.
If I were a person, Seattle.
Good guess, but no.
Or Vancouver.
No.
Okay.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, he was gonna film Superman Lives fucking here.
That's weird.
Steel City for the Man of Steel, baby.
Oh, god damn it.
That's not that. That's. Okay. I mean, they did say that, but that was not the reason why. So the big reason they were going to film here was LexCorp. They got a look at the PPG building, PPG Plaza, and they saw just this full glass black building with these pointy spires at the top, and they were like, you give them grabby hands, yes. And so they were going to make that LexCorp. If you have been to Pittsburgh and seen PPG Plaza, there is a skating rink that goes up in part of it during the winter season. Right smack in the middle where that normally is, there was going to be the big like pyramid like LexCorp logo.
Okay.
And they were going to have Lex's office be like up in the tippy top in one of those pointy spire bits. Like
it's a. I don't hate it. I mean, it makes sense for the time period.
It does. I absolutely agree. It makes sense for the time period.
And I also just kind of wish that it happened so I could be like, Lex Luthor's office.
Yeah, right? Um, Unfortunately, this did kind of mess with Dogma a little bit more.
Oh, no.
So
Kevin.
yeah, so Kevin Smith wanted to use PPG Plaza as the movie's headquarters in Dogma, where Matt Damon goes through that
Yeah.
excellent scene where he murders all those board members.
So scary.
It was a little scary, but when they went to go shoot there, they were told, "No, you can't shoot here. The building's been reserved for another production." They said, "Really? What?" And they said, "It's going to be where Tim Burton's Superman's going to be." He's like, "Oh man, really?" And like, given he's like in 2015 in this documentary, he's
Right.
like, he seems kind of like, "Oh man, that's really cool." I'm sure at the moment he was like, "Motherfucker, you got to be kidding me!"
Yeah.
So that's why we got the U.S. Steel Tower
Okay.
for the movie's set instead of PPG Plaza.
You know, I need to rewatch Dogma now that I've lived in Pittsburgh for a little
Yes.
while, and I can recognize the stuff.
I mean, I recognized it all the first time I watched it.
Now
But-
it's the lonely boy from middle of nowhere, Altoona.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Yeah, you would be more familiar with it. You might be able to spot the church in East Liberty where they shot the Ben Affleck's head exploding scene.
Nice. We'll have to do a little tour.
Yeah. Let's see here. Other production notes. So you've seen the pictures of Nick Cage in the Superman suit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's one picture in particular that it was like spread like fucking wildfire, and it is him in like that shiny blue rainbowy kind of iridescent suit that has like a very crooked like solid red S, and he looks high as fuck.
Yes.
Like his eyes are half lidded. He doesn't look like he knows where he is.
Yeah.
His hair's long and haggard, and like, he looks like a discount Tommy Wiseau on Halloween.
Oh fuck, he does.
Yeah.
He does.
And that picture was a fucking fluke.
It was just taken at a bad moment.
Taken at a bad moment. Literally,
It happens.
in The Death of Superman Lives, what happened? There is actual footage of these costume tests that Cage did with Colleen Atwood and Tim Burton, and you see the exact moment that they got that shot. Like the flash goes off, and you see his eyes are like not quite closed and everything. Everything else from that shoot actually looks pretty good.
Okay.
And the suit that they're actually testing out in that moment isn't even like the suit he's wearing the entire movie. There were multiple suits that they developed for this. First like the traditional red, blue, and yellow, and then a regeneration suit that he wears for like a very brief period of time, and then falls away to a darker suit, and then at the very end he's wearing that more like iridescent suit with the red, with the blue and the red.
Okay.
And with this like giant resplendent cape. And like Colleen Atwood went through a ton of iterations of like different materials for both the suit and the cape, like talking with companies like 3M, and given they were looking at Pittsburgh, possibly PPG, who knows? I have no verification on PPG, but she did specifically name drop 3M. And the company that actually did the costume work, like assembling everything and figuring out how to make it work, Edge FX, which is Steve Johnson's company, which he did a bunch of special effects on The Abyss and Species, and possibly for you and I, most notably, he's responsible for Slimer in Ghostbusters. Yeah.
Okay.
So this guy's capable of doing some cool fucking shit, and him and his company, took great pains to make like all sorts of different iterations of the suit. Like you see in this documentary, like all the different materials they use, like the different attempts of molding and sculpting it and everything, and you see like the buckling they have to deal with in the shoulders and trying to find the movement. And then like that moment where you see Nick Cage in the one that actually moves naturally, when he's able to hold his arms straight up over his head in the suit. It's like, that's amazing. How the fuck did you do that? And then for the regeneration suit, they actually they had to develop they had to adapt a style of vacuum fitting to make all of the individual muscle pieces. And when I say individual muscle pieces, I mean anatomically, for every single muscle in the human body, they made these vacuum formed pieces that fit over each other like armor, like scaled armor.
That's crazy.
That like it could move over each other and overlap and everything, so that they actually move naturally. So then when you got the regeneration suit completely on, you had like the blue musculature underneath. Then you had fiber optic cables that ran all throughout it, so they were able to like fire and travel light and all sorts of different patterns and everything to look like electricity.
Yeah.
And then you had the shell of the vacuum form stuff over top. The process was absolutely amazing, and it ends up looking good once it's all put together. And like people lost their fucking minds over like the so-called rainbow suit or whatever, but it's like he doesn't wear it that long, and the amount of work that went into making it happen was actually like astounding.
I don't want to see this.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I know I told you not to watch the documentary before this, but please watch this documentary.
No, as soon as we finish this, I want to watch it. If for another reason that like I've only seen the picture you mentioned where he looks pretty rough.
So that is like one of my favorite parts of the documentary is like at the very end when John Schnapp is like wrapping things up, he says like when he's talking to people at cons and he mentions Superman Lives, like, oh man, Nick Cage is Superman, that sucks. And he goes, oh yeah, well look at this, and he pulls out one of the good pictures, and they're like, oh, that actually looks all right. It's amazing, like that the little bit of perception, how that changes things. Johnson credits Lenny McDonald and Bill Bryan for working out that vacuum forming approach, and which was actually something that they had worked out, something similar to what they had worked out during The Abyss, and so they just readapted it to this to do something even more, I guess, time consuming and intricate.
Yeah.
Excuse me. One other version of the suit in concept art was almost like a mech-esque suit. It drew inspiration from ancient Egypt, and it was covered in like a bunch of hieroglyphs from head to toe. The actual design was like entirely too cumbersome to be practical, but like it looked fucking cool. And that was going to be like like the regeneration suit idea before they settled on what they ended up actually going with. And then after the there were some ideas regarding the suit that did not get put into practice, that were John Peters' ideas, which remember, he was a proponent of the black suit after regeneration, right? So there were ideas of having the S shield break away into like weaponry and tools.
I hate it.
Yeah, no, they decided they were not going to do that. There was also a lot of talk about what to do with the cape. Because like when you think of like what the hell a cape is used for in a costume, like it's used to like to accent movement or to hide zippers or things along those lines. John Peters wanted it to be like a character unto itself and able to be used as a weapon, and literally invokes the image of Superman using it to decapitate his enemies.
So R-rated Doctor Strange.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Is Benedict Cumberbatch, but he says fuck now.
And decapitates dudes with his cape.
Yeah. Multiverse of Madness would have been way different.
There's a universe where that's a thing.
Don't hurt me like that.
This guy again is proving he has no idea who Superman is.
He knows nothing about Superman. Like he liked the Donner movie, and that's about as far as his knowledge goes.
And there's some wacky powers in the Donner's movie.
Yeah,
but there's no decapitating.
There's no decapitation. No.
There's a moment where Superman takes the shield off and throws it at a dude, and it like wraps around him, and it's kooky. And
that sure did happen. Yeah, the weird Teflon wrap, like cling wrap shield moment. That I think. Oh god, they made fun of that on Family Guy once. I'm pretty sure. Not important. Oh my god. One of the other things that was really interesting about the regeneration suit. Atwood had actually worked out designs for other Kryptonian looks, because the movie was going to open up on Krypton and like go through the destruction of Krypton and the sending of baby Superman off to Earth again and everything, because they really wanted to harp on the origin again for some reason throughout most parts of this production. But she took little bits and pieces of the regeneration suit and kind of seeded them visually in other parts of
Right,
costumes.
that's sweet.
Yeah, it was just a really cool, well thought out idea. Also, literally everybody worked extremely hard to avoid having his underpants on the outside.
Yeah.
Because that's when we're really starting to get to the point, like pop culture wise, where people are like making fun of that. I mean, we even have, yeah, like I don't have a problem with that part of the costume myself, but like when you have fucking Nickelodeon cartoons like lampooning it,
I'm old, so I very much like it, and I know the origins of where that came from.
Yeah.
And
enlighten me. What are the
Sure,
origins of the
so,
underpants?
it comes from Mexican wrestling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
I actually like that. Yeah, I had no idea it was a lucha libre kind of thing.
Yeah, they saw that and kind of adapted it. But yeah, after the 90s, you slowly lose on the pants on the outside thing. And especially when DC reboots their entire comic line with the New 52.
I was going to say, I thought I remember the New 52 doing away with that.
I fucking hate it. Now, they've slowly brought back underpants on the outside specifically for Superman. And
Nice.
certain artists will be like, fuck you, I'm putting on Batman, you can just eat my dick. I think it's the exact like memo they sent out. So it's like really like in one issue, Batman's wearing underpants, and the other one, nah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Honestly, the weirder thing regarding the costuming and the character designs, the much weirder thing that people should have maybe taken issue with was Brainiac.
Okay, what's a Brainiac look like?
So, Brainiac, Burton was taking inspiration from the brain that wouldn't die.
Keeps the underpants, loses the pants.
Loses the pants. Straight up skivvies.
Comic book accurate.
I mean, yeah, that's accurate. But no, that's not what he
wouldn't die.
That's not what he was going for. It was a mix between the brain that wouldn't die and the fucking walking eye from Johnny Quest and later Venture Brothers.
Oh, God, I know both these references.
So he ends up with like a green-skinned human head on a mechanical daddy long leg body. That's his true form, and that is how Peters ends up getting his spider.
Okay, all right.
However, he would initially appear like a cloaked Grim Reaper, passing as human until his spider body is later revealed.
And who is he? Who's the actor?
Christopher Walken.
All right.
Just well, it could have been Christopher Walken. We'll say. I will say that in the audio drama version of this that I heard, so it is like a full cast audio drama. Amazing. But the voice actors are very clearly trying to emulate the actors. So like you can tell that a guy's doing a Kevin Spacey, a guy's doing a Nick Cage, a guy's doing a Chris Rock, and a guy's doing a Christopher Walken.
I will say that in Batman the Animated Series, I think that Further Adventures or whatever, I can't remember, the fourth season.
Okay.
Mr. Freeze has like his body has like decayed to the point where only his head is alive.
Oh wow!
And when the head separates from the mechanical body, it is like spider legs.
That's fucking wild.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable.
Oh my god! I'm not familiar with that storyline. That's bonkers.
If you watch just the Mr. Freeze episodes of the Batman the Animated Series, it's dark as fuck.
Yeah.
And it's not happy.
No, of course it's not.
Yeah.
Oh my god. But yes, please, for the love of all that is holy, look up Burton's sketches of Brainiac in particular, because there may or may not be a drawing of Brainiac's weird fishbowl spider head doing karaoke. I need to know that I did not hallucinate that.
So like Brainiac's one of those characters that's had a bunch of different bodies. So I'm curious to see if like one of them. God, that is uncomfortable. I wish I had not seen that.
It's bonkers, man.
It's not terribly like he's. Oh God, there's another one. I hate it. His ship looks dope as fuck, though.
The ship looks cool as hell, and we'll touch on that.
Feels kind of Mobius.
We'll touch on that a little bit more in a
looking.
minute here. So the fallout of like the public perception of the costume test, though, definitely left an impression on Burton, who to this day like does all costume tests in like in a private setting with just him, just the actor, and just one camera.
Wait, so did that costume leak occur during production?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm genuinely not sure about that. Whenever it did hit, it left enough of an impression on him. He possibly jokes that he does all of his costume testing in a bunker 5 miles underground with a single camera, but I have a feeling he just does it in his house away from prying eyes.
In his bunker.
In his bunker. Yeah, that's where it's just where he lives.
Yeah.
Just you become very paranoid, and it's apparently a doomsday prepper. Could you imagine?
For vampires, though.
That would be the twist. That absolutely be the twist. Now, this has been a lot of fun talking about. I've really had I feel re-energized jumping through all that stuff.
I'm actually kind of interested in this version of the movie.
We're about to get to some shit in just a second here, but before that, we're going to take a break because we have not done that yet.
We can feel good for a minute.
Yes.
Yeah. First of all, Tim Burton's drawing style is just.
Oh my God.
It's unique.
Unique is the word for it.
I enjoy it.
It's so strange.
The spider image was fucking weird.
Yeah.
I do not like that.
I swear to God, there is a drawing of Superman that looks like Edward Scissorhands in a Superman cape.
That tracks. Oh my God. This like the spider version and not the spider version. Where it's just the jar with the legs.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's fun.
One where he has like a spider suit.
Yeah,
which I hate.
I think that's more like the cloak that they were talking about, where he looks like he's kind of a reaper.
I do. I want to watch this movie.
Right. I want to have seen this.
I feel like it would have been one of those movies. Oh my God. Sorry, the spider legs are like really accurate. Did not. I liked it better when it was his like daddy long-legger.
Oh my God, yeah.
Fucking Black Widow style.
Yeah, I think it does start to skew more Black Widow as it goes on.
Yeah. But I feel like this is one of those movies that like I would have watched when I was 5, and it'd be like, oh, I really enjoy that movie. Kind of like. Even Batman Forever, I kind of liked as a kid.
Yeah.
Master of the Universe, live action one.
Oh man.
I was like, I have not watched it since I was 5, and I don't plan on doing it.
I was immediately disappointed by Batman Forever, but yeah, that He-Man and Masters of the Universe, I definitely remember enjoying that as a little kid.
Yeah, there's plenty of movies that I've since gone back and like, oh man, that was really bad.
Yeah.
There's so many interesting drawings. There was at one point an exhibit of his work.
What, Burton's?
Yeah, I really wish I could have gone.
Yeah, that would have been cool as hell.
So I kind of said this a little bit in the first episode, but the first time I ever found out about this story was in 12th grade. And the reason I found out about it was because I was doing we had to do like a book report.
Yeah.
Or just some kind of Mr. Static didn't give a shit. So I chose to do mine on Tim Burton.
Okay.
And that's how I found this story. Oh God. All right, I need to stop. Nightmares.
Okay, we should probably jump back in.
Yes. Yeah, let me search my back real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I thought you said scratch your back.
Oh no. No, I'll do that on It was my day off, and I just slept. I just slept the whole time. I think we had some other podcasts.
Yeah, looks like Becca joined in, and I'm not sure. I can't see the
instructions needed.
Oh, neat.
Thanks.
Oh, welcome. If you guys are still there, thank you.
God, I'm kind of falling back a little bit to Burton, and that's not.
All right, you ready? Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the fun behind-the-scenes stuff that we have to talk about there, because we have to get into some of the more toxic and troubling back behind-the-scenes stuff, because we have to get back into John Peters a little bit more here. He's not going to go away, unfortunately.
Yeah, I kind of got the sense of that when you started talking about the Man of Steel, and I was like, fuck, he's still around, isn't he?
Yeah, so I'll get into how there, because I think you're going to find that hilarious a little bit, but we'll get into why later. So we've already discussed how Burton just did not like working with John Peters. Like,
sure.
If you didn't listen to part one for some reason, again, why? Stop doing that. But John Peters was a producer on Batman '89, and he rewrote the entire third act without telling Burton, and also commissioned the building of a 38-foot replica of a set piece for them to use, and just didn't explain it to anybody. Just went and did it. He didn't tell Burton. He didn't tell the actors. No one. And it just resulted in a bunch of awkwardness and like just deer in headlights moments for Tim Burton, to the point that he basically barred him from the set of Batman Returns and relegated him to being an executive producer instead of a full producer. The artists and writers couldn't fucking stand him either. So, as I mentioned, there were issues holding up Wesley Strick's script, which he did write one, but no one fucking saw it because it didn't get past Peters in the studio. The artist, however, really got the short end of the stick whenever it came to dealing with John Peters. So keep in mind, he pulled all this shit with Kevin Smith with spiders and polar bears and like animal-related action and all this. This isn't so much animal-related, but he did suggest another big showy action sequence that didn't make any sense. He wanted Superman to fight off a bunch of ninjas. And that got storyboarded.
Okay.
Watching Michael Anthony Jackson in particular try to explain why that happens and just watching his brain melt in real time is a sight to behold.
There was that like brief martial arts moment in the 1989 Batman.
There was.
It's a little confusing, but it's quick enough. You're just like, it's fine. They just had that one guy on their crew that knows martial arts. He wanted to show off.
Yeah. I mean, Batman has a history of dealing with ninjas,
he
though.
Does.
Like, Superman, I don't believe does.
He would have a problem with them. He just
blast them.
Yeah. Away.
It would be like that scene from fucking Indiana Jones.
Right.
Where the guy does all the sword flourishes and then he just shoots him. Just Indiana Superman Jones would just vaporize him with heat vision.
His pants, and he's just like, can I just shoot him? Steven,
can I just shoot him?
I have dysentery, Steven. Can I just shoot him? True story.
I didn't know that's why that happened. Yeah, that's amazing. Oh, God. In addition to this, when it came to the Skull Ship, this was also a thing that Peters really hammered in, that he wanted a Skull Ship involved. And I don't think he made a big enough deal for Kevin Smith to mention it, because while it does pop up in Kevin Smith's version, it's not he's not like, man, he was really hung up on this fucking Skull Ship.
It's also comic book accurate.
That feels right. So I wouldn't be surprised there. But he comes running into the studio, or into the artist bullpen area, with a copy of National Geographic at one point, and he just slams it with pins it up to a board and starts pointing at it. And you're like, I want a skull ship. This is it. I want this. And it's a front-on view of the Lucy skull, the Australopithecus afarensis. So he ends up demanding that skull, and Sylvain Despretz does the primary design on it, and then Bill Bowes actually sculpts a version of it. There's a full 3-dimensional tangible sculpture of this thing that exists.
Looking at the sketch, it looks like Lucy's skull.
Yeah, Yeah, like
They
they
did an
really
amazing job.
they did an incredible job, and like that is a lot of I think that is like Depret's influence of Mobius coming through and a lot of that kind of stuff. Uh, but yeah, Bilbo sculpted a version of that, and the day before production was shut down, one of Peter's assistants came and said, "Hey, John needs this for something," and it's still on display in John's house.
Yep.
Up to this day.
So, serious question.
Yes.
Is it known whether or not John Peters has done a fuck ton of cocaine? Because it feels like in these stories he's done a fuck ton of cocaine.
So another story that I read about him, this is not related to any particular production, but he got into a wrestling match in his swimming pool with Steven Seagal.
Oh God, it's so in character.
And then that evolved into a like martial arts face-off in the yard. I think I just killed Jack.
What the fuck is this man? Why? Why would you give this man power?
It's so bizarre.
Like, at what point do you look at this man's life and you're like, you know what, we made a mistake. He's going back to dyeing pubic hair for sex workers. Like, I do not care that he fucked his way into making a Batman and it did really well. Everything about this man is like, why?
We're going to get a little bit more why here. So we've already mentioned the gay R2-D2. We've mentioned the trying to fit in a little dog Chewbacca.
L. Ron Hubbard, right?
Because kind of L. Ron became that. I don't know why it was L. Ron. Like, I mean, aside from obviously L. Ron Hubbard, but like, what the fuck does that have to do with Brainiac? I don't know where Smith got that from. But anyway, so Peters was super obsessed with finding that toyetic tie-in.
Right.
And a lot of like what was keeping the production afloat was deals with Kenner, Kenner or other toy companies to try and keep things going before like Warner Brothers kind of was like, what the fuck's going on here? Yeah. So he would bring in groups of people into the artist bullpens, including his own children, to look over and critique the artist's work while they were still in the room working.
No. It's very in character, and I hate it.
Yeah. So like, imagine like you've been brought in to do this big project for Warner Brothers. You're still designing shit, and you've got a bunch of it up on display. And you're pointing out the stuff that you like, and Peters is like, "Oh no, that's shit. I like this one." And then he's also bringing in a bunch of kids and be like, "That's really cool. That sucks. I love this. This is stupid." While you're still working, I would flip a fucking table.
Oh, those poor guys.
I know. That sucks.
I mean, it's already difficult being the artist and not really getting the credit for shit.
Yeah.
That's so demeaning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
At least let them finish it in private, and then you can let your disgusting spawn look over it.
He would also, in this sense, try to override Burton as well. Because Burton would go to the production team. He would talk with Heinrichs and the other artists about like what he wanted for certain things, or like certain monsters in the menagerie or something like that. And Peters would come in and say, "No, we're not working on that anymore. I want this. I want skull ship. I want muscles. I want big." He would just completely derail everything they were working on and like just veto the director's like directive.
So Burton was able to get this guy off his back for Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Why wasn't he able to do it with Superman?
He's lost some of his power because of the performance of Mars Attacks. Yeah. Remember, because that was like literally just on the tail of Mars Attacks release, which again, not deserved.
No.
Possibly the worst thing, though. Peters was convinced that no one in the production understood the street-level grit and toughness that he wanted in this picture. He was fucking obsessed with street-level toughness, which, coincidentally, makes Bradley Cooper's portrayal of him in Licorice Pizza that much more accurate. Because if I'm not mistaken, he tells one of the main characters alternately, "I love what you're doing here. You have you're from the street. You understand what's happening, or you understand how the world works." and would switch to, I will kill you and your entire family if you do this thing wrong.
I really need to watch Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either, but I did watch some clips of just Bradley Cooper's performance, and goddamn.
Is he playing name?
Yes, he's by name. He's playing John Peters.
Not inspired by.
No, he's actually playing John Peters.
Jesus. Okay.
Gus is the look down too, like full on 1973 John Peters. So he claims that he himself has been in over 500 fights, and that he has quote unquote tasted someone else's blood. Sylvain Desprez says that he really wants to see him wrestle a shark, which honestly, let him do it.
Do it.
He once got into an altercation with a storyboard artist. There's arguing back and forth with various storyboard artists and Rick Heinrich that ended with him putting Rick Heinrich in a fucking headlock while like yelling about stuff. Supposedly to like impress women who were on set or whatever, or in the office, rather.
None of this should surprise me, and I'm not surprised.
But you're disappointed.
I'm incredibly annoyed.
Yeah, thoroughly. And one of the artists on the production drew a caricature of that particular event.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it's a pretty good drawing. Everybody on the production. Everyone on the production team had a nickname for John Peters.
Yeah.
You want to guess what it was? It was Loudmouth.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Man. So it was about, at the time that things were really escalating on those levels, it was about then that Warner Brothers started bringing around some rapid changes because Terry Semel had finally taken a look at things and realized, wait, we're spending how much money on this?
Right.
And started to panic. And he realized that we're going to be in a lot of trouble here for both related to this production reasons and also some exterior reasons that we'll get to in a little bit here.
And they haven't started filming it.
They've not started filming it. No, this is all still pre-production. So Warner Brothers decides that they have to rein things in. This has been basically an unfettered production up to this point. They need to pull it back. They need to make things smaller. So they decide that they don't like the direction that Wesley Strick's draft of a script has gone in. So they force Burton to fire him. And they bring on Dan Gilroy, who ends up basically working with Burton 7 days a week for an entire year to try and make this happen. I forget what Dan Gilroy is specifically known for.
It's a long time to work on a script, though.
It's a long time to work on a script. Some of that is also like recursive revisions that they're going through because as budget concerns become more of a reality, they're like, no, we need to wrap this up here. So Gilroy does complete a draft at the very least, and which then becomes a recursively revised over time. And we're going to go over some of that now. So this one, as I mentioned, opens on Krypton. We open on Brainiac lashing out at his creator Jor-El and swearing to track down and kill Kal-El. You get like the last minute jettisoning of Kal-El off of Krypton in his little pod, accompanied by a little toy of some sort.
Okay.
Or so we think it's a toy. Cut to LexCorp goons dumping waste into a river, who are then stopped and interrogated by Superman. Superman breaks into a LexCorp elevator to confront Luthor, much like in Kevin Smith's script, minus the threat of extrajudicial murder.
Right.
A notably un-Superman thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure you put that one in.
Clark Kent and Lois Lane the next day attend a LexCorp press conference where Luthor reveals that he has discovered the first confirmed signs of alien life visiting Earth, a vessel buried in a field near a farm in Smallville. Upon investigation of the farm and the vessel, Kent cannot deny that he must actually be an alien. It shakes his worldview. He's suddenly other on a whole new level. That was one of the big approaches they wanted to take to this, is one of the ways that Clark Kent is wildly different from everybody, and thus kind of a more anxious broken figure is
Uh-huh.
he had no idea it was from another fucking planet. He thought he was just like an unusually powerful human.
Okay.
And in the course of this, he remembers his mother saying something about him being a gift from God, who fell from the sky.
This is Martha Kent.
Martha Kent, yes. Why'd you say the name? No, sorry. Who came from the sky with a beautiful blue and red fabric and a toy.
Okay.
One of the scientists at the dig site accidentally triggers something in the vessel, creating a signal that Brainiac is able to trace, and also awakens something in Kent's apartment, the toy that was mentioned.
Sure.
Superman flies to the top of the Daily Planet to ponder his situation. Lois finds him, and when he worries over his heritage and whether they should be together or if having kids would be life-threatening to her, cue kryptonite condom flashback to Mallrats, she reassures him that nothing changes how she feels about him. So we have kind of the opposite of what Kevin had put into his script, where Lois was a little bit shaky on the future of the relationship. He later approaches her as Clark Kent, and invites her to dinner to discuss something important. Lois does not know that Clark Kent is Superman in this version, so she's intrigued that he's interested in something besides work at all. So,
sure.
So during their dinner, Kent is so nervous that his shaking leg sends ripples through every single glass in the entire restaurant.
Uh-huh.
So he's like sweating and nervous and can't get his words out, so he decides to go and excuse himself to the bathroom, where he promptly yeets himself out of window to fly off his jitters. So he returns a little while longer, completely windswept and and ridiculous. And Lois points this out, like you look like you just got blown away by a hurricane or whatever. And he's like, yeah, the hand dryer was really strong.
Yeah.
And so he finally does like tell the truth, and she's largely unfazed. Like, why didn't you tell me? And she's very supportive despite his continuing mounting anxiety.
Right.
Brainiac creepily reveals himself and Doomsday to Luthor at LexCorp, where he reveals he's here to kill Kal-El. Luthor is thrilled and offers to work together. Brainiac then takes over Luthor's body, melding the two into one being known as Lexiac.
Okay, well, that is not completely inaccurate to the comics.
Really?
Yeah, famously in Alan Moore's...
Fucking Alan Moore! God!
Another... just for those keeping track at home, it's another tally mark for Alan Moore.
I've lost track of the number of times we've brought up Alan Moore.
And he's not even like a writer I'm especially fond of.
I mean, I like a lot of his stuff, but fuck, man, like there's a lot about him that I don't like.
Right. In his story, Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Good name.
Yes, it's a really good 2-issue comic. It was the comic that they kind of put out at the end of, right at the Crisis of Infinite Earths, before they kind of rebooted the whole comic book line. They wanted to kind of, this is what could have happened, this is how Superman could have ended in the Golden Age.
Okay.
But Brainiac takes over Luthor. They don't have a dumb name.
They have a fun couple name.
They do have a fun couple name.
It's Evil Brangelina.
Anyway, it's a good comic.
I don't think I've ever seen you want to kill me more. Oh, Jesus. So anyway, the two combined have Luthor's appearance, but Brainiac's advanced intelligence. Though they do occasionally have two heads, and it is extremely unclear if it's supposed to be one's face on the back of the other's head, if it's a two-head situation, like the thing with two heads minus the Rosie Greer element.
See, in the comics, he just wears Brainiac like a hat.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's like both kind of fun and terrifying.
See, the other option that I had in my head was like a neck head situation, like in the film adaptation of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where there's like Sam Rockwell's got another Sam Rockwell, like where his Adam's apple should be.
Jesus Christ.
Have you seen that?
I have, but apparently I remember none of this.
But it's so good. Oh my God. They've also reimagined Doomsday in several ways. Actually, they never quite agree on what the fuck Doomsday is supposed to look like. There are hundreds of examples of what they thought Doomsday might look like, ranging from like giant sewer shrimp lobster things to like a giant like a double-armed Goro-esque kaiju with a rocket punch,
Right.
to
Okay.
what might be my favorite, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense in terms of like a Superman story, but there's a version of him where he's made up almost entirely of faces, and the faces
God.
and the faces turn into faces of people that you know when you look at them. So like Superman's fighting him and he turns into Lois Lane and Perry White and Jimmy Olsen and shit, like all over him.
Yeah, I saw that Freddy Krueger movie. It was weird.
It's fucking weird. And it's also like weirdly like prescient in terms of something that popped up in Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's a demon spirit called Ko the Face Stealer that if you show any emotion around it, it steals your fucking face.
Yeah.
And it had stolen the face of like the love of a past avatar.
But do any of them have a skullet?
Of a what?
A skullet. You know where you're like,
oh no skullets.
Oh, then they fucked up.
They fucked up. That's right. Doomsday is supposed to have a skullet, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like kind of like a bone rock skullet, right?
Yeah, it was a choice.
It was a choice. Yeah. Ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Okay, the next several beats play out very similarly to Kevin Smith's draft, with some slight changes. So before Doomsday attacks, Lexiac draws Superman out by causing an elevator of children, including Lois's niece Alex, to malfunction. So Superman has to save this elevator full of kids before something happens, because Lex's assistant lets slip that Superman only shows up in a catastrophe.
Right.
So Doomsday then shows up, kills Superman, but Superman also manages to kill Doomsday by causing an explosion with a live wire and a gas leak in the wreckage of LexCorp.
Okay.
Lois gives a moving speech at Superman's funeral, and no one seems to give a fuck that Clark Kent's missing. Of note, Princess Diana died right as Gilroy was writing this particular scene. So Peters told him to just adapt whatever he was seeing on TV from her funeral and memorials. Okay. So he gets this very regal, very large-scale funeral procession, which honestly comes across as kind of fascistic and
sounds
troubling.
Like it, yeah.
It feels like the kind of thing that, you know, Zack Snyder would do.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Okay, then Superman in his tomb is resurrected by the toy from his apartment, which is actually a Kryptonian robot known as K. K was actually a placeholder name that neither Strick nor Gilroy actually found a replacement name for. The resurrection takes place in the tomb in order to cut down on locations and costs, so there is no appearance of the Fortress of Solitude in this version of the film. This version has K become Superman's armor much faster than Smith's did with the Eradicator. So, like within like the first confrontation he gets into outside of the tomb, which is with some toughs trying to like intimidate a couple in the graveyard,
right?
It just jump right to Kryptonian armor.
All right.
Yeah. Superman does still save a bunch of people from a burning apartment building and resuscitates a dying child. Lexiac, facing calls to install a permanent memorial to Superman on the site of his death, realizes that he has immortalized his foe in the eyes of the public and resolves to destroy the planet to kill him off for good.
Sure.
You know, reasonable thing.
How you do that.
Yeah, it's a perfectly rational reaction. Superman and Kay go to say a final goodbye to Lois, revealing that he is alive and about to put an end to Lexiac. Shortly thereafter, Lois gets a call from her doctor. She's pregnant. Yep. No one knows when that happened, but apparently they got down at some point.
Okay.
Superman then goes to LexCorp to discover that Lexiac has begun hijacking control of the world's nuclear weapons, which Kay says he also did before destroying Krypton. Superman tries to destroy the device controlling the nukes, but only has a fraction of his powers, so he just leaves some awkward mess behind while the machine persists. Lexiac discovers this mess and realizes that something's amiss. He goes to Lois Lane's apartment, pretending to bring her flowers in order to see if she's had any unexpected hunky corpse visitors. While he leaves without harming her or getting any information, Lois receives a phone call shortly thereafter that is just her niece screaming. So she hauls off to LexCorp to try to rescue her. Superman gives a powerful speech to Kay about how deep a connection he truly has to the people of this world despite his difference. Kay is touched and reveals himself as the programmed memory of Jor-El. Superman sees Jor-El and Lara in hologram form, and they tell him that his powers were really the self-love he found along the way, and that he has what it takes to save those that he cares about. The fifth element. Lexiak holds Lois and Alex hostage in his headquarters, wearing a tux and ready to toast his victory with the bloody S shield of Jor-El mounted on the wall.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So he's wearing daddy suit?
He's kind of wearing a daddy suit, yeah. It's fucked up.
Like the first act, there's some weird moments, but I was in it. I was like, all right, cool, I want to see this movie.
So Superman shows up for the final battle. Brainiac ditches Luthor's body and reveals his true form, a giant mechanical spider with a head and a fishbowl for a body. Lois pretends to fawn over Brainiac to provide Superman the needed distraction to defeat Brainiac and stop the nuke countdown. The fight then ends a couple more times as Brainiac just refuses to take the L until Lois tells Superman about the baby and he immediately gains dad strength. Good guys win, cut to commotion in the Metropolis streets, leading to a, look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman! Roll credits. Yeah. Gilroy was able to work up a new draft and continue revisions, but then Warner Brothers deemed that the entire project was just way too expensive and demanded a ton of cutbacks, hence the reduction in locations and so on and so forth. The budget was estimated to be around somewhere between 140 million and 200 million, but Peters says that it would have been closer to a $300 million investment.
Okay.
And I think that's including distribution at that point. Despite casting being done, script revisions being in progress, and the release set for the 4th of July of 1998, and production slated to start in about 3 weeks, Warner Brothers canceled the entire project.
They would never do that.
They were that close. No, they were waiting for them to finish first. Peters says that the 3 main reasons that the film was canceled were budget, Nick Cage, and Tim Burton, or at least studio confidence in them with this project.
Okay.
He also claims that he threatened to toss Terry Semel out of a window for being afraid to take the perceived risk.
Yeah.
There was further mention that the budgetary resources for this movie were then shifted to Wild Wild West. Burton and Cage were both still paid for the film as they both signed pay-or-play deals. Yes. So Burton was paid about $5 million and Cage $20 million. So they were guaranteed that pay no matter what happened. And before we take our next break, I want to touch on this quote from Sylvain Desprez from the Schnapp documentary. Development hell doesn't happen with no-name directors. It happens only with famous directors that a studio doesn't care to break up with. And that's how you end up for 2 years polishing a turd until someone walks away, and at great cost. I'm curious to know what you think about that particular quote regarding this production.
So development hell doesn't occur to no-name directors.
It only happens with famous directors that a studio doesn't dare break up with. I'm curious to see how true that holds as we continue our trip through development hell throughout the second unit here. But I can't help but feel like that might not be quite so true with this particular production. I don't think Burton was necessarily the problem. Maybe there were some problems, but I think Peters was honestly the bigger hindrance.
I mean, if I were in charge at Warner, I would look at the production, and the person that keeps making changes to the production is Peters.
Yeah.
Burton seems to be wanting to get to work and do the movie, and seems to be taking notes on the revisions that would cut the costs.
Yeah.
But far be it for me to try to understand the minds at Warner Brothers.
I mean, they have continuously proven up to this very date that they maybe don't know what the fuck they're doing in a number of senses.
Yeah, maybe we can do a bonus 5 at some point on like the death of the streaming service because it's looking scary.
I just honestly, I hope it just holds out long enough for Venture Brothers.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about streaming in general.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that could be something to explore. So that might seem like it's everything, but we're not done. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to wrap up. And then we're going to wrap up the story.
Uh,
How you feeling?
I mean, fuck. I saw a discussion about how streaming services are kind of reaching the end of the line, where they realize that they can only get so many subscribers. They can't get more than, you know, the number that there are to exist.
You mean the capitalistic idea of free, rampant, unstoppable growth is a fucking pipe dream?
Yes. So what people want are these shows that the streaming services are making, and are generally pretty cool.
Yeah.
But the problem is that those are expensive to make,
Yeah.
and they are union, and money. So it's like, well, do you make this really high quality show and you don't pay the shareholders billions of dollars? Well, that's insane.
You can't do that.
So what is likely to happen, at least according to this discussion that I watched, is they will start to pour money into the kinds of productions that don't require a lot of money, which is reality TV.
Yeah. Sure has been a lot of that popping up too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Besides there being like a ton of great television on streaming services, the thing that makes me nervous is a lot of those mid-budget movies that we used to get have now become shows.
True.
On streaming services, and I like the kind of mid-budget movies storytelling.
Yeah.
I don't want everything to be a
gigantic blockbuster.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy my fair share of like indie stuff that's low budget.
Yeah.
But I also want to see like the actor dream projects and like capitalism, man.
Fucking capitalism.
I'm gonna grab a drink and then I'm going to see where this adventure takes me.
You also grab me some city water. Thank you.
As soon as it's done, I'm gonna have to pass the fuck out.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, ready? Welcome back, everybody. So, real quick, I want to note, just because I did not give Dan Gilroy his due, before taking on Superman Lives, he would written the screenplays for Chasers and Free Jack, and possibly something you're aware of. Later on, he went on to write and direct Nightcrawler.
Oh, the Gyllenhaal?
Yeah.
He's that guy.
He's that guy.
Ooh, okay. That's a fantastic film.
I still haven't seen it.
It's great. And it has Bill Paxton, R.I.P.
Oh.
I think.
I gotta watch that. So, I mentioned that Warner Brothers was worried about money in terms of this production. They were also grossly worried about money outside of it because they were in the midst of a string of colossal fucking failures at this point of time. In The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened, they highlight a number of these that are particularly pertinent. Batman and Robin, $125 million budget, $107 million domestic box office.
Okay.
187, the Sam Jackson thriller, if I remember correctly, $20 million budget, 5.7 million box office.
Right.
Steel, one of the Shaq movies.
The Reign of Superman
The
story.
$16 million budget, 1.7 million box office.
Oh, pretty bad.
Fire Down Below, $60 million budget,
Terrible.
16 million box office. Mad City, $50 million budget, 10.5 box office.
Man.
The Postman.
Oh no.
Speaking of Costner, $80 million budget, 17.6 box office.
I mean, it's not a great movie.
It's not. Sphere, $80 million, 37 million box office.
Okay.
Major League, back to the minors, $46 million budget, 3.5 million box office. And Tarzan and the Lost City, $20 million budget, 2 million box office.
Most of these movies I have not heard of.
Honestly, neither had I, but those are some hefty investments along with some hefty losses. Now, not everything that came out for them during this time was a loss. This is also around the time LA Confidential and The Devil's Advocate and a couple of other things came out that were winners at the box office for them. And it is also worth noting some of these deals are just distribution only.
Sure.
But even so, that's a big risk, and that's a big loss being incurred by everyone involved. So while the cancellation of this film angered Peters, it sent Tim Burton into seclusion and caused the crew to hold a funeral.
Oh God!
Yeah, they held a funeral for the production of this, somewhat reminiscent or perhaps prescient of the Serenity or the Firefly cast throwing a "We don't work at Fox anymore" party. However, Warner Brothers wanted to continue on with the project in some form. So Superman Lives refused to die for a bit here. In fact, Nick Cage was still attached at this point. So Warner Brothers put a notice on the Superman Lives website alerting fans of the situation. I'm going to read that here for you out of David Hughes's book, because he has it transcribed. I'm on the wrong page. Out of commitment to Superman's worldwide legacy and countless fans, and to the potential of creating a Superman story that will push the narrative envelope, Warner Brothers has decided to postpone the start of production on its Superman movie. Warner Brothers feels that at this time, the script does not yet do full justice to the potential of the film and of the character, one of the most popular superheroes in history. The project, which has been tentatively scheduled to begin principal photography later this summer, remains in active development. Warner Brothers intends to aggressively continue developing the Superman project until it satisfies the highest standards of everyone involved.
Wink.
Wink. So, who came next? The sixth writer, actually, to come to this project is William Wisher, who at that point was probably best known for 1995's Sylvester Stallone starring Judge Dredd.
Okay.
He was brought on to write another draft, which was reported to have been pitched as darker and kind of Matrixy.
Right.
Nick Cage, as I said, was still attached, and there were a plethora of potential directors, including Oliver Stone, Shekhar Kapoor, Simon West, Ralph Zondag, and Stephen Norrington. I had also heard at some point that Michael Bay's name was floated somewhere, but I have not actually seen that written anywhere. Okay. However, by June of 1998, Cage pulled out of the project.
Okay.
So that officially killed the last lingering non-John Peters remnant of Superman Lives. But we're not done. April of 2001, Paul Attanasio was revealed to be commissioned to write a new script, thanks in part to the renewed popularity of Superman thanks to Smallville. Mick G, known for directing Charlie's Angels, was attached to direct. While this was in development, in February of 2002, J.J. Abrams was tapped to write a Superman film, this time not related to Death of Superman. Simultaneously, Warner Brothers was starting up a Batman vs. Superman film written by Andrew Kevin Walker of Seven fame and punched up by Akiva Goldsman of A Beautiful Mind fame. The studio wanted to fast-track Batman vs. Superman, but then Abrams turned in his draft of what he considered to be the first of a trilogy.
Yeah.
And I need to tell you some details about this fucking script that he handed in. Are you familiar with this project at all?
Vaguely, yeah.
Tell me what you know before I jump into this.
That's about it.
Just that it was happening?
Just that it was happening, and Abrams was attached. I remember reading about it at one point and being like, what? But
okay. Buckle up, Buttercup. So, the film opens on Superman being defeated by a Kryptonian named Ty-Zor.
Sure.
It opens up with him getting stomped and kind of has to rewind in a, yep, that's me. You probably wonder how I got here, kind of effect. So we rewind all the way back to Krypton, which we see being destroyed by a man named Katazor, who is Jor-El's brother.
Right.
And he is vengeful, and he is jealous, and he is destroying the planet with these giant, three-armed mech beasts called Rousers. And for whatever reason, he's after Jor-El's son, Kal-El. Jor-El, who is for some reason a head of the Senate instead of a lead scientist, sends his son through space to the planet Earth to get him away from his apparently evil brother.
Right. Feeling wrong.
So he grows up he lands in Smallville. He's raised by the Kents. He moves to Metropolis around age 20, meets Lois Lane. They end up working together, and then around age 29, around age 29, they're covering a story regarding an alien probe. Lois is actually trying to dig up dirt on a CIA project that's led by one Dr. Lex Luthor.
He was a doctor at one point.
That worked with the CIA?
With some shadowy government.
With some three-lettered organization. Right. Gotcha.
Lex okay.
Does he ever?
Were there any actors attached to this bullshit?
It's a really good question, actually. I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to put a face to my Superman. Tony Shalhoub. Got it.
Tony Shalhoub. I'll look that up in just a second. What? Oh, my God. While they are doing this investigation, Ty-Zor lands in the middle of the National Mall in Washington, D.C. with a bunch of Rousers and starts causing a bunch of problems.
Right.
Superman, who had just won the public's favor upon revealing himself to the world, saving Lois Lane and the President of the United States by catching Air Force One in the midst of a crash and saving it, because Superman always has to save a fucking plane.
Right, yeah, they really love to do that.
They love to do that. It's constant. It's all the fucking time. Enough so that it got directly lampooned in the first season of The Boys.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That plane goes down hard, and it's entirely Homelander's fault.
Yeah, that tracks.
Anyway, after this battle with Ty-Zor on the National Mall, Superman's public opinion of Superman quickly changes to him being an illegal alien who brought a terrorist war to their doorstep. In the midst, somewhere in between there, the reveal of his son being a superhero causes so much stress that Pa Kent has a fatal coronary.
He does do that a lot.
Yeah, he just has heart attacks and dies all the time.
Like, that's what he's like. Fatherly advice, heart attacks. That's all you need to know about John Kent.
So Superman does try to like retire from the superhero life until Ma Kent talks him out of it. Yeah, and then all the Tizor nonsense happens, and then at some point he decides to return to Krypton. To
I thought Krypton was one of Smithereens.
No, as it turns out, it's fucking not. So he goes back to Krypton and he learns from his dad, who's alive. His parents are alive. He learns that he was actually a prince of prophecy, who is supposed to cause. Like, I don't even know if I can fucking continue. I don't even know if I can continue with this. It's so fucking dumb. It's one of the worst things I've ever heard. You know what? And there was one other detail that I will get to. So, Superman's suit, for whatever reason, is missing chunks of its shield.
Okay.
And as it turns out, Martha Kent just has them lying around because they were given to her by Jor-El when he came and visited them, asking the Kents to care for his son before he was sent to Earth. Did you just burp?
Other direction.
It is astounding to me that anyone lets J.J. Abrams do anything. Like,
you broke me. I don't know.
How the fuck do you think I felt reading that the first time? Jesus fucking Christ. So the short version of this is that the Atanasio script goes out the window, partially because all the interest that's going toward Batman versus Superman and this J.J. Abrams nonsense,
right?
And partially because at some point it's announced that filming is going to take place in Australia, and McG says, no, it doesn't feel right to shoot a Superman movie not in America. But also, it turns out he's afraid of flying.
Okay, you know what? Of all the bullshit that's happening on this set, that's fine.
Yeah. Let me see here.
I wonder if at what point they were working on the George Miller Justice League. It was around this time, right?
There was a George Miller Justice League?
You know who was Batman?
Who?
Armie Hammer.
Armie Hammer? Really? That's a choice. Oh, I need to amend one thing regarding the Abrams script.
All right.
He didn't go directly to Krypton. He communed with Jor-El in a white infinity space known as the Infinity Timeless.
That's worse.
That's worse. It's dumber. It's
okay. All right. So we're almost there.
This movie feels like it has like 6 acts and it's supposed to be the first part of a fucking trilogy.
Like, I know that Abrams consistently makes money, and that's why they always give him more projects. He tends to work with other creatives, though. He doesn't usually go it alone.
Okay, I have to amend something else I said because I did get a detail mixed up. Okay, so Paul Attanassio's script is completely jettisoned because of the struggle between Batman versus Superman and the J.J. Abrams joint.
Okay.
It comes down to the studio's executives voting to decide which one they're going to do. Because again, they were going to fast track Batman versus Superman.
Right.
And given the writing pedigree behind that one, I wish I could have seen that script. But there's an X factor. John fucking Peters thinks J.J. Abrams' script is brilliant. He fucking loves it, and he sways the opinions of the rest of the executives, and they vote in favor of doing his story. So Batman versus Superman gets shelved. Part of the rationale is, no, we should really reintroduce Superman before we go full Batman versus Superman. Which, sure, I guess I can see some rationale for that. But this script fucking sucks. There's no way it's going to be good. McG gets attached to the Abrams script. He's the first one to go for it. And it's then announced that they're going to be filming in Australia.
Uh-huh.
And he decides, nope, that doesn't sound right to me. We can't do that because it feels wrong to film a Superman movie not in America. And then later everyone learns he's afraid of flying. So just...
Right, okay.
Yeah, not going to happen. So he's off the project. You know who they get to replace him?
Who?
You've seen X-Men 3, right?
Fuck. I was like, who's shittier than McG?
Brett Ratner.
They are colleagues, I believe.
I'm not surprised.
I kind of all come from the same stagnant water pool full of mosquito eggs.
That sounds about right. Yeah, so Brett Ratner's super pumped to go and give this a shot.
Right.
And
had he done X3 at this point?
No, he had not done X3 at this point because X2 had just come out, basically.
Okay.
So Bryan Singer has caught wind of a lot of this. He's been following this production for a very long time, actually.
Right.
Largely because he's friends with Kevin Spacey. And he learned early on in the process from Kevin Spacey what had gone wrong with the Burton version of this, why it hadn't happened and what was going on up to that point. Because there was never a point where Kevin Spacey was not attached. He was just asked, you want to play Lex Luthor? And he said, yep. And just kind of waited. And he apparently told this to Singer at a Bob Dylan concert. He just had time at a Bob Dylan show to explain all of this.
Brains, what?
This whole fucking story feels like a Mad Lib. It's nonsense. So Brett Ratner ends up dropping out of Superman
because he wants to go ruin the X-Men franchise.
Basically, yeah. And the one thing that Bryan Singer would leave X-Men for was Superman. Who was one of the producers on the X-Men films up to that point?
I do not recall.
Let me make sure I get her name right.
Donner. Fuck. I forget her first name. Because the Donners are buddies with Bryan Singer.
Yes.
Fuck, I forgot about that.
That's precisely correct. It was indeed.
It's Richard Donner, and I forget what his wife's name is.
No, I know it's in here. Hold on.
I want to say the Donners also gave Jeff Johns his start.
Lauren Schuler Donner.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yep. She was a producer who had the connection with Singer and, of course, introduced him to her husband. And Singer was able to pitch directly to him, if I was going to do a Superman film, I would make it kind of a vague sequel to yours. And that's how we ended up with Superman Returns. Something to note regarding Superman Returns, there were several points during production where WB wanted to curb some ideas or change some things what they saw with the script. When that happened, Bryan Singer would pick up his Bible, and out of the back of it, I mean, like the movie Bible, like not like a Christian Bible, like his production Bible.
I was like, does he keep it good?
That would be the only thing he keeps in the yes. So he pulls out his production Bible, and out of the back of it, he removes a photograph. A photograph of Nicolas Cage with his eyes half lidded and his Superman S shield all askance on a shiny suit with his long hair. And he says, you guys were going to produce this. So he got his way on this film largely by perpetuating a fluke of a perception of Tim Burton's work.
Someone on a film set took a picture.
Yep.
At just a second.
By total chance.
Total chance. That photo made it to the public. And
it made it to Bryan Singer.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. It's such a weird, stupid story.
Yeah. It's a really weird, stupid story. There's one more aspect that I want to touch on with this, though, and it feels right to wrap this up with Jon Peters.
Yeah.
So we know that right after Superman Lives, Peters tried to produce a Sandman film.
Yeah.
As we just found out a little bit ago.
Yeah.
And Neil Gaiman tanked the fuck out of that by leaking the script, which he says is the worst script he's ever read. Which it sounds as though it was written by Peters.
That's the vibe I was getting.
Yeah. And he leaked it to Ain't It Cool News. And it got eviscerated and absolutely ended any chance of that happening. However, he was still attached as a producer for Superman through all these iterations.
Okay.
Hence how he went to bat for J.J. Abrams. And he was still on whenever it came to Superman Returns.
Okay.
He never set foot on that set.
Because they cut them off. His feet.
No.
Oh.
Well, maybe. But then they molded him new ones out of money.
Oh, no.
They paid him not to go anywhere near that production.
Holy shit. That's the only way that would work.
It's the only way that would work. And you know when else that happened?
Man of Steel.
Man of Steel. Christopher Nolan specifically said he is not to be anywhere near this production. Between those two movies, he got paid $85 million to do nothing. You know what his response to that was?
I think I do.
What do you think it was?
The Donald Trump of...
It was a very Trumpian response.
Okay.
It was, they're scared of my influence.
Yeah, that's what he would say.
That is what he is. That is indeed what he did say.
And they would tussle with Steven Seagal.
And he would wrestle Steven Seagal.
Children's full of cocaine.
That, as they say, is that.
Do you know what Jon Peters reminds me of? Let me tell you a little story about young Jack trying to make make money to buy Star Wars action figures. One of my chores was to clean up the dog shit in the yard.
Sure.
And it was gross. And I would take a grocery bag, like a plastic bag, and I would put it on my hand and grab the poop and turn it out.
And you sold it as fertilizer.
I'm the Donald Trump of dog shit. And if the dog shit was hard, because it had been in the baking summer sun.
They sold it as hockey pucks.
Sold it as hockey pucks. It was fine.
Yeah.
No problem.
Oh, yeah, that's way easier.
If it was fresh, moist.
If it was a wet one.
If it was a wet one, you had to dig it out of the grass.
Yeah, it gets all stuck in there.
Jon Peters is neither of those things.
No.
Jon Peters is the dog turd that's hard on the outside. And you're like, okay, this isn't so bad.
And then it squishes on the inside.
And then you grab it with your hand, and it squishes, and you're like, fuck.
Yep.
This is so much worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yep. That is Jon Peters.
That is Jon Peters.
This is 100% Jon Peters. Oh, my God. Just, I listened to a couple of podcasts that also addressed this this would-be film.
Sure.
And specifically, I think it was the "How Did This Not Get Made" podcast, which did an amazing job with their approach, and also apparently got a chance to interview John Schnapp before he died, which was very good, which is very cool. And I want to thank them for their work on their show. They put forward the idea they don't think it's possible to do a good Superman movie anymore. And I don't want to believe that. I think it's still possible. I don't think it's going to happen under Warner Brothers currently.
No, especially not with the current regime.
Yeah. I think it might be a long time down the road, but I think it's still possible. And you know what? Especially after learning this story, I yearn for it. I want it so fucking bad.
Superman is a difficult character to grasp, to comprehend.
Yeah.
Way harder to understand than Batman.
Yeah, I agree.
And throughout the different versions of the script that you've told me over the last 2 episodes, there have been aspects of it that I think get him. And even in the comics that I've read that I've enjoyed that are Superman comics, one of the ones that's always mentioned is All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison,
which you had me read, and it was the first Superman book I loved.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's so good.
But it would not be a good. I mean, they actually have made an animated movie, and it's kind of cool.
Right.
But it's not a Hollywood movie of Superman.
Yeah, that I would absolutely love to see them take a crack at something like that, though, or even just give Morrison the chance to like do something.
You know what movie he was supposed to write and did a draft of? The Flash.
No, really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
He was working with Ezra Miller. I think they got a draft done. And then there's been so many different directors attached to that movie that there might be like 2% of his script in there, but
oh my god.
Yeah, he's been trying to get into television they've been trying to get into television for a long time. And they did do a season of Happy, which was
yeah. I watched. I didn't see the entire first season, but I saw like the first few episodes, and like this is really good.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to keep up with it, but I haven't yet.
It got canceled at the second season.
Yeah,
but
that was what it was Christopher Maloney and Patton Oswalt, if I remember correctly, right?
As the voice of his imaginary unicorn friend.
This like era of Patton Oswalt and voice acting makes me so happy.
I think that if you were going to get somebody, a comic book person involved to do the script, you would go with Dan Jurgens.
Dan Jurgens, okay.
Yeah. He's been writing Superman since the 90s. He was part of the person that was involved in Death of Superman the whole way up.
Yeah. I was gonna say I thought I recognized that name. There we go.
And
I didn't credit the actual writers of the fucking book, but
this does not happen very often. Normally, like, you have a writer that's really good at a certain era at a time. That's it. Like, they've done the thing. He came back to but he came back to write Superman in this newest iteration. I think the Rebirth era.
Yeah.
Which brings back the Clark Kent that we grew up with, the one that did die.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. It's real good. They actually gave Superman a son, and it's a lot of fun. Like, seeing Superman as a dad, I think might be the way in.
I like that. That's wild. That is absolutely wild to me. That is also like a weird convergence with a bunch of other media that I engage with, because fucking Coheed and Cambria, their new albums are largely about parenthood. And they're fucking amazing. Like, the story of like the kid that's involved in the relationship with the parents and everything is, in with all like the sci-fi epic weirdness, is really good. The Wonder Years, another one of my favorite bands. They're about to release a new record, and a lot of it fucking deals with fatherhood and what it's like having kids. And the first few singles they've released for it are fucking amazing. Like,
so Superman's son is named John after.
Yeah.
And
something happened.
That's weird. Oh, hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
Weird. So he aged up as a teenager, and he has his own comic book right now. They're called like Son of Superman. It's written by Tom Taylor, who's phenomenal.
And didn't he come out as bi?
He came out as bi.
Yeah.
And Clark is just like super fucking supportive.
I love it.
He's he's actually stepped away from being the Superman for a minute.
Yeah.
Let his son kind of step forward, experience what it's like to be a superhero and be responsible.
I want to read that so badly.
well,
that sounds really good.
He's like, I gotta go deal with some bullshit on Waterworld with Mongol. He's an asshole. You know how it is. But like, your mom's here. We love you. We support you. I'll be back.
That rules.
Yeah, no, I'm like, that's. I never thought I'd want to see a Superman who's like the dad of a kid.
Yeah.
But no, it works really well.
It's amazing. See, is that kind of shit that gives me hope that like there is material that could be put together to make a compelling, good quality Superman film. Like,
it's the landscape of Warner Brothers DC universe right now is all over the fucking place. Some of it's really enjoyable. Harley Quinn animated series, Doom Patrol series.
I still gotta watch Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn, but
yeah, they're both very fun.
Yeah, I mean, hell, like, a bunch of the stuff that they produce through HBO is fucking amazing. I mean,
I'm nervous.
Yeah, like it.
I'm also surprised you got 3 seasons out of Doom Patrol. It's such a weird fucking series.
Yeah, I was reading something by the creator of the show Infinity Train. Because that's one of the shows that's being pulled off.
I watched the first season. I really enjoyed it.
Same. I watched the first season just recently. I was like, man, I can't wait to jump into season 2. And I find out it got pulled at the end of last week. Like, what the fuck? And he broke down really effectively, like, why this is such a big deal for creators. How, like, it's not that it's cutting out residuals and whatnot. It's that those residuals were going toward their union health care and all that kind of shit. It's like, these are decisions that are saving nothing basically for Warner Brothers Discovery and are directly having negative impacts on creators. It is
like, animators already don't really make that much money.
Yeah, and they get put through like such intense fucking conditions. From like for visual artists and designers going through crunch hours and shit. Like,
there's stories of the first Gundam 1979. Of animators working themselves to literally being taken to the hospital, and they're like, "No, I wanted to make it perfect," and like, stuff. But also, don't land yourself in the hospital.
Yeah. Oh my god! Like, it's so frustrating because like you see how much these people care about what they create and the impact that it has on people, and to see it just thrown away on a whim. It feels like
tax break.
And I mean, for like the Infinity Train stuff, like that doesn't give them a tax break.
It's so
it's just I think Batgirl and Scoob that get them a tax break because those won't see release. And to my understanding, can't see release, at least in the case of Batgirl, because they deleted the footage from the fucking servers. One of the directors tried to log in to save the footage from the server so that at least they had it, and it was gone already.
I would have bought it.
It makes me fucking sick.
Why would you do that? Why would you?
$90 million.
I mean, like, even if it was an absolute piece of shit. Which I don't think it was.
There was the only source that claimed it was like irrevocably bad or whatever was the fucking New York Post, which is a fucking tabloid rag.
And like it was like test screeners didn't enjoy it. And
test screeners are fucking
like anything.
Test screeners didn't like the ending of 7. Test screeners didn't like a whole bunch of fucking shit that turned out to be fucking great.
They loved the Justice League movie that Joss Whedon directed.
Oh, God.
But to just delete all of that work, holy fuck!
It's an absolutely disturbing trend, and I hope that they fucking learn something from the outcry from viewers and subscribers and creators and showrunners and everyone who is so fucking pissed off about this shit.
As soon as they pull the plug on Doom Patrol and Harley Quinn, I'm done. That's it.
If they cancel the Venture Brothers and Metalocalypse films, I'm done. I don't give a shit at that point. As much as I loved a lot of the content that's on there, you have poisoned the well for me.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I wonder what it would be like to live in a country that has a monthly stipend for artists who has easily obtainable grants.
Yeah.
Where the goal of creating whatever you're creating isn't to make that money back at the box office.
It's to contribute to the culture. It's to
right.
Yeah. It's to enrich the lives of other people.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure that he's made money, but I feel like Wes Anderson films have found their audience, but also like
I'm sure he's comfortable. I'm sure he's made plenty of money.
Right. It wouldn't like. I feel like we would have more, not obscure, but like different types of art and storytelling.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So we keep getting fucking J.J. Abrams.
You're getting J.J. Abrams. Yeah, I watched all of Lost.
Yeah, me too. But like,
I didn't need to.
I really didn't.
I could have stopped at the first season and been happy.
Yeah.
Well, guess I'm gonna go write some more Nightbreaker comics. Make no money there.
We're already making no money. That's fine.
I will continue to not make any money.
That is what we do best and what we will keep doing for all of you here. So
that is the DeRazzled guarantee.
Oh my god. On that note, thank you all for taking this fucking odyssey of a journey with us. Did you have fun, Jack?
Some.
I admit it came down into more of a downer at the end than I was anticipating, but
what I really enjoyed was I knew all of these puzzle pieces, and I didn't know how they connected, and I'm like, oh, there's so much cause and effect the whole way through.
It is. It's kind of wild, and I was stressed the fuck out, but I had a lot of fun researching this and putting it together. So thank you all for listening and giving us the opportunity to do that. If you enjoyed this or if you enjoyed any of our episodes, please rate and review fucking everywhere so people will have a better chance of discovering us. It really does make a difference. It does help us out, and it touches us. It means a lot to us. Please follow us on social media at DeRazzledPod on Twitter, DeRazzled Podcast on Facebook, DeRazzled_podcast on Instagram, and Dullboy_Jack on TikTok, as well as DeRazzled on YouTube. I think we're gonna. I think we're gonna be having Xanadu is I think the next episode that's going to be coming out with our good friend Caleb Figgles from Making a Martini. So we'll probably be drunk for that episode.
God willing.
God. And then after that, I think we're going to be coming up on Halloween times. Yeah. So we will probably be setting Development Hell aside for a little bit to do some spooky shit. Yeah. It's only August, and as we're recording this, and I'm already in spooky mode, and I'm thrilled. I saw a 12-foot tall skeleton at Lowe's the other day, and it just made my heart sing.
How many baseball teams we have to sell to be able to afford that?
That's a good question, and if you are interested in helping us fund our 12-foot tall skeleton fund, you can do so by buying merch at our Redbubble store. That's up on all of our social media, or you can just search DeRazzled merch on Redbubble.
And change purses and t-shirts and hoodies
and clocks and shower curtains and mini skirts and stickers and magnets and backpacks. All sorts of stupid shit.
Questionably designed backpacks.
Hilariously questionably designed backpacks.
Yes.
But yeah, check all that stuff out. Thank you to everybody. We're fucking exhausted. We're going to go to bed. Where we are sure to
go right to sleep.
Go right to sleep. Hell yes. Oh, we did it. I can stop thinking about this movie.